Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Salema Rice with Accenture, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Heidi Lanford, Chief Data Officer, and Paul Taylor, the Chief Executive Officer at Fitch Group. Heidi, I'd love to know what attracted you to the Chief Data Officer role at Fitch. Like, how is this role different from other roles that you've had? And did you interview directly with the members of the C-suite, or do you recall any kind of memorable moments when you knew that this was special?
Yeah, so I'll share an interesting story, but the interview process, for me, it was I was a pandemic hire. And it was 6 months long. And it was interesting because so initially what attracted me to the role really was about data as a product, as opposed to being a CDO managing sort of the operational data that helps run the company. And many CDOs, and probably the majority of them, and even the role that I had in my last job, it was really about stewarding and shepherding the company's operational data assets like HR data, financial data, CRM data, that type of thing, to help the company utilize that data and perform better. Although eventually we'll tackle that here at Fitch within the data organization. My role initially is about the data that Fitch uses to, make and deliver our products. And so it was a unique opportunity. Lots of CDOs talk about, I want to be involved in the monetization of data. That's what we're doing here with this role. It is all about the monetization of our data. And so that was initially the thing that I'd say made this opportunity stand out for me. And that was really exciting. The other part, though, was, I laugh about the 6-month process. It took us, I think, a while to kind of get the job description ironed out. And I know sort of a midpoint through that process, when I was interviewing, I said that the job description really wasn't what I was envisioning. And so our COO, with whom I was initially reporting to, said, okay, rewrite it and tell me what you think, and then let's debate it and see if we can get agreement on it. And so it was an opportunity for me to really craft what I thought needed to be, part of a really effective data organization and function. Regarding C-suite members, I think I interviewed with just about everyone, besides the usual HR, risk officer, the heads of each of our divisions, the tech CTO, and then chief operating officers within each of the divisions. And I think it was really important for me going into this to understand who were going to be probably the stakeholders I needed to align with most carefully, and also which ones were going to be tougher to bring along and which ones were going to be easier, and trying to assess that and understand if there was going to be a great fit. But I think the uniqueness about this is Fitch really wanted a data organization to stand out and help bring this to, I'd say, the forefront and have a big seat at the table. And in many other companies, you're sort of fighting for that seat at the table. But that seat was here, when the role was created.
That's great. Yeah, developing those relationships is critical for your success. So it sounds like you've really done an amazing job at how to handle data as an asset for your organization. So I'm curious, how have you handled the balance of being responsible for the data assets, but also including quality, governance, and even you mentioned modernizing the platform with supporting the enhanced monetization of Fitch's data. But what does the prioritization really look like, and how do you set priorities together with your C-suite sponsors?
I'd say we probably are working kind of two parallel paths. One is foundation building. And, prior to me coming, I mean, Fitch has been a data company for a long time. So it wasn't like nobody was watching after our data or doing things with data or managing it and storing it and building on it. So it's been a little bit of, in parallel, let's build, a modern environment that has all of those things that you mentioned, like governance, and see where we can use automation and AI and ML in a much broader way to enable us to scale. And so we're doing that, what I call the foundation building, in parallel to sort of the ongoings of the business that we have always had. And then we start looking at opportunities for what do we now start sliding into this new modern foundation. And we look at things like, is there new build or new products that we're working on? Those are ripe candidates for migrating into, our new tech environment. And then which things are the most pervasive or, the lowest common denominator, data sets that are being used by the majority of the company. Those are ripe targets for prioritization in terms of, again, moving them into this new process, the new platform, the new governance model, and things like that. So that's sort of how we've picked it. Where can we make the broadest impact? Where are some net new things that are good opportunities? They might be small, but they're maybe a little bit easier and gives everybody an opportunity to see, a win.
That's great. Paul, so what key partnerships are important for the chief data officer to have? Like, what do you do specifically as CEO to support and encourage this? Like, are there monthly CDO updates, or is there emphasis on involving the data organization early and often, or, and really not as like an afterthought?
Yeah, so there are monthly meetings which I attend with the two key divisions we have. I think my role is just to smooth the transition. So shouldn't underestimate how hard it is to do what Heidi and her team are trying to do at Fitch. So first of all, there's a lot of investment going into it. So we've really put our money to work here. So there's a significant investment for the group that's going on. But it can be quite challenging in the short term and in day-to-day activity because we're busy. We're busy as a firm, busy as a company. And when you get to the coal face of the business, people who are doing their day-to-day work, most of the people involved can see where we're trying to get to. They understand it. They all think it makes sense. They want to be a part of it. And of course, we should be doing that. When it comes to the day-to-day, sometimes it's, well, I'm busy and I haven't got time. And, oh, my goodness, do I really have to do this? And by the way, I don't understand it because it's complicated and it's technical. So that goes back to my communication point. It's so important you keep the message coming of why we're doing it, why it's important. And then we're learning as we go. So I think one of the things we underestimated was the impact on the analytical team we have in our ratings business. It's about 1,400 people in that team. So they're busy. We've been through huge financial market disruption in the last 2 years with geopolitical risk and all the stuff that's going on. We're now telling them to do things with regards to our new data infrastructure.
A little different.
And it's suddenly, we have to do something different, but I haven't really got time. So you have to then explain to them why we're doing it and make sure we have a resource base that's sufficient to do it. So there's a lot of, my job really is to break down those barriers that go up when people get a bit defensive. And Heidi said yesterday to her team, you're the tip of the change spear here within Fitch. It's going to be hard at times, but we just have to keep pushing through. I'm saying my job is to smooth it out when we hit some of the bumps in the road, which are inevitable.
Yeah. Well, it was your idea to start the monthly meetings that we have with each of the division heads and their direct reports. And I think that was you encouraging that actually was very helpful to me. I think we're still working out like what the right content is and what they want to hear, and also pulling them in on, giving us feedback on their priorities so that we can not be that afterthought that you mentioned.
Right.
Knowing things ahead of time as opposed to order taking, which is a mindset that I think technology organizations unfortunately fall into that trap a lot. We're trying to avoid that and partner, up front And I think that there's that realization that knowing what our strategic objectives are as soon as possible and what we call it the big rocks we should be focusing on, because we want to absolutely be aligned to enable those strategic priorities and initiatives and big rocks that the product teams have. And we want to make that as smooth as possible.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I love hearing that. Well, thank you both. Thank you, Heidi and Paul, for joining me today. Listeners, you can go to visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. And thank you again for being here today. I appreciate you both and look forward to hearing more about your journey in the years ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.